Hey Shrimpy, thank you for stopping by. What was I going to say? Oh right. Get the usual formalities out of the way. Um, uh, if you could follow Shin the Legend, he's one of my mods. He also supports me a lot. We talk about mental health every now and then, and um, if you can follow him, it would mean a lot to me. The other thing is I'd like to promote Shrimpy. Shrimpy is also one of my mods. He's one of my best friends, and he helps me out a lot. We talk about mental health every now and then, and he's one of my mods as well. So if you could follow him as well, I would appreciate it a lot. And then if you could support this Fiverr artist, it would really mean a lot to me. They've done some work for me in the past, and it'd be nice if you could support them with a some work for them. Other thing is, and if you could support her as well, they've done a lot of work for me, and it would mean a lot if you could give them some work. So, other than that, I think it's time to. I was a little bit disappointed because uh, hey Mango, thank you for Doggy Mango, thank you for stopping by. Um, I was kind of disappointed at myself because like Custom Robo, Fantasy Star Online, Final Fantasy X, those are like three of my like favorite games. So I was kind of disappointed that I already made one for Custom Robo, and I already made one, and so I'm making one for Fantasy Star. And why I was saying I was so disappointed is because I don't want to play all my cards super early, if you know what I'm saying. So, but at the same time, I should be mentioned a couple of good ideas, like Sunday stream and like the Super Mario movie, the Super Mario animation show talking about Ninja Turtles. I was thinking, oh, I forgot that like, those are good subjects to, pick up or to make a podcast about as well. Um, so I was workshopping this with Devo yesterday because I wanted his honest opinion, and then I kind of had a brainstorm that I go, you know what, we'll just go with Fantasy Star, cause yeah, Fantasy Star Online. It's kind of also your idea, Shrimpy, that we start with the base or first game evolution, and then we go from there. I know it's like for the most intensive purposes, Fantasy Star is a forgotten franchise. Nobody remembers it. Like a lot of Sega franchises where it's been left in the dust for a while. And even though it's been very popular on like PSP and with Phantasy Star Online 2 out, Phantasy Star Online 2 was what's it called? It was way after the fact. It released in 2012. They said in 2013 they were going to plan a Western release, and that never happened. And then it finally happened in 2020. If you can blame anybody for 2020 or 2020 playing Fantasy Star, like I never thought it was gonna come out, and then it came out on Xbox and then PC, and then yeah, and I couldn't play video games anymore, so I was like really like sad. Um, wait, I just making sure. Yeah, my microphone's going. Okay, I was just concerned I was muted. Anyway, Fantasy Star Online 2 came out. From watching other people play it, it's okay. It's really confusing. They didn't make it easy, um, user friendliness or anything like that. Sorry, but before we delve into that, like, really talk about that, we have to kind of go to the beginning, as it were. Um, it might honestly, to be fair, Shrimpy, it might be. Um, Thank you, Doggy Mango. Um, it's maybe the Xbox version is only confusing, but like PC is probably fine because I know it's on. I think it's on Steam, and yeah, because it was on the Windows Store or whatever, and a lot of people were complaining about because the Windows Store launcher or Phantasy Star's launcher was just garbage. So they put it on Steam, and it's much better. So I imagine a lot of people have praise for it even after all this time. It's one of those games that like they go for the anime art style and it looks good initially, but then as years go on, you kind of want a more realistic art style, and it kind of pales in comparison to some of the like higher class games that are that like more Western developers are getting better at. And I know this is a weird theory, but I feel like a lot of Japanese games the gameplay may not be um, good sometimes. Like for like a fighting games are always cool, but again, designs always stand out to me visually. But in Western games, gameplay is really good, but they don't always look good. Like I would say, case in point, Halo. Halo has always been like, you got an Xbox for Halo, but Halo always looked ugly to me. I guess it looked better than most of the native Xbox games starting out, like from like young starry-eyed developers. But again, Halo, I swear Halo 1 at least always looked ugly to me. Um, but anyway, we'll get to the Xbox eventually. We're gonna start with Fantasy Star 1. And I swear we're gonna go through this fast, so we'll get to online and the main issue there. Um, Fantasy Star 1, it was not. I mean, it semi set the world on fire. It's confusing because at the time, I think it's great that or crazy. It debuted in 1987, 2 days after Final Fantasy was on the Famicom. So I'm surprised it didn't have a crazy rivalry at the time because like Sega was Phantasy Star and Square was Final Fantasy, and I also think they had Dragon Quest out at the time, so they had two like you know RPGs just waiting in the wings, and Sega just had Phantasy Star. But Phantasy Star is notable because it had first-person dungeon crawling similar to like PC titles at the time. It also featured a female protagonist where, and pretty much again like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, they had all of them are guys or dudes, and uh, I think that's it. Notable as well is programmer Yuji Naka worked on it, who was programmer for a Sonic the Hedgehog. So this was his third or fourth game, along with designer Reiko Kodama. She designed most of the characters, and she eventually got to direct for Phantasy Star 4. Phantasy Star is also unique in the sense that they capped off their original series and they stopped at 4, and every game after has been a spin-off, which is kind of crazy to me. At first I was kind of going like, that might be modest because again, like, Final Fantasy is in 16, so but at the same time, like, I think they didn't know where to go with that. So in the image there, the middle character is Alice. She's from Phantasy Star 1. The two characters in the bottom right and left are Rolf and Nay from Phantasy Star 2. I don't know anything about Phantasy Star 3 other than the subtitle, which is kind of funny. It's called Generations of Doom. I think it's kind of cool. Phantasy Star 4, the final one, is called End of the Millennium for the subtitle, so I think it's kind of cool. Other than that, Phantasy Star 2, I was going to say, is notable bad because Nay in the lower left corner, she's like Ralph's childhood friend, and then she dies because it's like they say that Newmans are like a race created by humans or something like that, but also like Nay's like a clone or something like that. So it was unfortunately notable for kind of beating Final Fantasy to the punch because it had a key character die like Eris did in Final Fantasy VII. So, but again, that's notable bad because why kill off a character so early, and another a key party character at that as well. Again, Phantasy Star 3, I don't know too much about it other than that why it's called Generations of Doom is because you have kids, and I kind of understand that it's kind of like, way later some RPGs, I think, Fire Emblem Fates or Fire Emblem Awakening, you can have kids in that or whatever, so I guess it's notable in that aspect. Phantasy Star 4, I kind of wish I played that because it was, I think on the lower or the middle right is the blonde haired guy. That's, I think, his name is Chaz. And no, not like Chaz Aznabel from Gundam or whatever, Let the Purge Begin. But I think his name is Chaz. He's one of the main characters of Phantasy Star 4. I don't know too much about it beyond that. Besides, again, I like the In the Millennium subtitle because it probably just came out before 2000 or a little bit before 2000. Other than that, I was kind of looking at both online and 4 because I was really sad that they never had a crossover with Metroid because the starting enemies. Okay, I gotcha, doggy. Thank you for stopping by. If you don't come back, um, what was I gonna say? Fantasy Star, 4 starting enemies are and I probably should have put Fantasy Star Online because that's what people are looking for. But anyway, Fantasy Star 4's starting enemies are they're very similar to Metroid's. They have that like, jellyfish esque thing going on, and why I mentioned online too, or I mean online TOO, is that some of the areas in Phantasy Star Online are very similar to Metroid Prime 2. So I'm kind of sad that Metroid and Phantasy Star never had a crossover because I think that would be, rad. So eventually, Phantasy Star 4 is the last one to come out for a while. Again, it was great that Greiko Kodama, she got to direct for this one. And then again, years later, Phantasy Star Online comes out. Unfortunately, since it was released in the for the Dreamcast, it only had online for Japan, so the states didn't know the online aspect of the game, so they named it online specifically for only in Japan. And thank you very much, doggy. What was I going to say? So yeah, it was only online in Japan, and then people got to experience online through episode 1 and 2. Episode 1 and 2 was for the GameCube and the Xbox, and I played that version for the GameCube, and it's one of my favorite games because there's such a variety of characters. There's humans, which have all around stats or whatever. Newmans, which they have the pointy ears. They're basically Vulcans for, or space elves for Phantasy Star. Gosh. And casts or androids, which androids have no techniques, none of the spells, but they can drop traps after, which they can do a lot of damage. So it's pretty cool, or at least a traded offset. So Newman's, their special ability is, it's unfortunately, if you just stand in one place, you eventually gather mana. So if you just leave the game idle and you could gather mana back. So that's their special ability. Subsequent Phantasy Stars like Universe and Online 2, they'll introduce two new races as well, which is cool. Universe had the Beast, which the Beast could like transform into like a ultra version, like Go Super Saiyan effectively. And cast or androids in Universe, they could like call down I think it was a sub weapon or something like that, and it was like a big pair of like Gatling guns or like lasers or whatever. It was a cool thing that when you take enough damage. So they Cass and Beast in Universe had that, whereas in Online One, your mag or your little basically like almost like a Pokemon, if you got damaged enough, it could have released like a special ability. So sometimes it would be like healing, sometimes it would just be base damage. Other than that, if you trade it to other people, you can get special mags as well. Like I remember, you could get like from looking at the gear list, you could get what's it called? You can get like a Dreamcast or a Devil's Tail. There were a lot of shapes of mags, so it was kind of interesting to see where it went. Um, since there was no main character and you got to create your own character for Phantasy Star as well, that was another like big change. Like that was that was great. Um, I know Phantasy Star Online is not the first MMORPG that honor goes to, or that title goes to, Ultima Online, which was like I think 96 or something like that. But it is kind of notable because it beat out Warcraft to the punch. Warcraft, or I think Online came out 2000, 2001, and Warcraft was 2003. Um, I don't know when EverQuest debuted, but I imagine it probably beat it to the punch. But anyway, Online also, their legendaries, that was always the funny thing to me. Their legendaries were all in caps called special weapons, and you took them to Tekker, which would reveal them for you. And so I think it's a similar thing, kind of like what, because Phantasy Star Online was kind of influenced by Diablo for their loot system. So, and Online had a both devious and brilliant approach to loot as well. Every time you created a character and you spelled their name with a certain amount of characters, you would get a badge. The badge would denote what type of items you got or what special weapons you would get later. So it was kind of good and bad, because if you didn't know about it beforehand, you would just get a random badge. But if you planned for it, you get a badge of your choice. Certain character, again, like certain badges would get like more shotguns or more of the pole arms, or more wands or whatever. So it was, if you were honestly working for that, you could get a good badge that you wanted to. Other than that, I never learned about it too much, and I didn't really care for it, because yeah, because again, I don't want to be limited by the badges. I want to create my own character and go on from there. But again, what kind of the special weapons always stuck with me, also because sorry, this is a very personal note. I played Phantasy Star Online a lot when my grandmother was dying, so that game is always like firmly like locked in my mind. So that's why I think I have so much. I know there's a lot of problems with Phantasy Star Online, but that's why I think it's so locked to me, because it's very nostalgic to me as well. And again, my grandmother is very important to me. So, um, but sorry, I don't want to be too real or whatever, or not be real. I don't know. Um, gosh, what was I gonna say? The special weapons. they were all in caps. Specifically, there was a gun called Barista. It was a pistol that kind of looked like a vacuum cleaner, or the handheld vacuum cleaners. But that dropped a lot for regardless of badge. There's a weapon I that is probably my favorite. I know a lot of people have drawn fan art of it. It's called the Inferno Bazooka. It's a great name. It's a shotgun type weapon, and it only single targets people, but it's a fantastic name for a weapon. And the funny is, as more as you go along and get the more of these special weapons, um, they like go instead of the laser type ones, they'll go to like steel katanas, and again, the Inferno Bazooka shot out shells. So I thought it was funny that after the fact that the laser weapons were doing worse than the like olden like the uh old gun weapons or whatever. So I thought that was kind of funny. Um, they added so many weapons after the fact because they had so many versions for online. Like episode 1 and 2 was a GameCube and Xbox versions. They had um episode 1 and 2 plus, which my bad, episode 2 by itself added three new characters as well, with one of my favorites, uh the ranger lady character. She's cool. And she also has the highest mana pool out of the rangers class. One of the most interesting things as well is that they said that the hunter characters, the melee characters, are for like when you're beginning, starting out. The rangers are intermediate, and the forces or mages are the advanced if you're playing that. So I thought that was probably the most interesting thing going forward. Um, but yeah, unfortunately too, this is a really minor one, but I think Phantasy Star Online was a bit sexist as well because some certain special weapons are only reserved for the dude classes. So, and it kind of goes, it is a a double standard or double edged sword or whatever, because again they have special weapons only for women characters as well, right? But they're always like wands or butterflies, and nothing's wrong with that, but there's a really cool cloud sword esque weapon, and it's like it's huge and metal, and why can't the lady characters use that? That's I think that's kind of lame. That again, you can mod it, but um you know it would have stand to reason why why it would only allow those two characters versus the rest of the cast from using it. Um, but sorry. I was going about the different versions. Um, Plus added a bunch of new weapons. Unfortunately, also you would also get the best weapons from playing online. That's another thing entirely, which got me annoyed. So, um, which was notable. Plus, I think added a weapon called LNK 300. It was a minigun, which was kind of cool. So you can be like Vulcan Raven almost. Um, and then they had another standalone game, Phantasy Star Online Episode 3, Card Revolution, which it was another weird one because it was based, it was a card battler like Kingdom Hearts, Chain of Memories, and Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2. So I was so weirded out that three major franchises at that point were doing card battle systems, and they were again one-offs, and again that was interesting to me. The last edition was PC exclusive, which was weird at the time, I think. Uh, Thank you very much, Jen, for hosting. It means a lot to me. Um, and sorry, I know I probably thanked you, but thank you again, Doggy Mango. Thank you very much. I appreciate it for hosting. Um, the PC exclusive one was called Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst, and it actually added episode 4, which again, it's a weird like even if you think about it in Metal Gear fashion, Metal Gear 1 and 2 are kind of set in the present, and then Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater goes back in the past and is a weird like exception to the rule, and then Metal Gear 4 is back in the present slash future. Same thing with Phantasy Star is Phantasy Star 1 2 worked on by both Yuji Naka and Reiko Kodama. Then Phantasy Star 3 is what you could call the cash grab, because again, it's not worked on by them. That's another thing I forgot to mention. It's not worked on by some of the lead people. Also, uh, again, it's like they know it's a valuable franchise, so they want to put out another game, but the game is the most different. So and then Phantasy Star 4, or the fourth episode in the case of online, it's a return the form type of thing. So it's very odd. So after online, which is again, it's crazy. It's another spin-off, so they have their own lore and their own rules and all that. The only consistent thing is that the final boss is Dark Falls, which was a consistent boss in the old games. So, or consistent final boss in the old games. He's basically more or less, like the Bowser or Eggman, or etc. Gosh, what I was gonna say. The next one is Phantasy Star Universe, which I have probably the most problems about. On the middle left, you can kind of see him. He has red hair. And I forgot to mention on online, the guy they consistently use for promotional artwork is the upper right in the kind of orange jumpsuit. His name is Ash, and he's the base hunter guy for online. But going back to Universe has a red-haired guy, Ethan Weber. I have tons of problems with Ethan Weber. I'm sorry for Phantasy Star fans who have appreciation of Ethan Weber. I think he's probably the worst. Before people shit on Titus or Van. Well, Titus or Snow from 10 and 13 of Final Fantasy for being too androgynous, or I feel like people should shit on Ethan Weber. I'm fine with people shitting on Ethan Weber. I have no respect for Ethan Weber. Ethan Weber, it's odd that both Phantasy Star Universe and Star Ocean: The Last Hope was the craziest departure, because it became more anime-esque. They lost their unique designs. It's weird. Every time you beat a story chapter with in the main story of Universe, you'll get an anime prologue, on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z type thing, and or epilogue or whatever, and and they'll have the heads or portraits of each character that was featured in the chapter with a song. It's really weird and crazy. I know it's for the first time in a series that has voice acting, this is a game. So it's I don't have problems with Metal Gear Solid, right? Because that's the first time, but also it's good. I slightly have problems with Shenmue because their voice acting is really goofy. I think in Final Fantasy X, that's also a good, that's a good job. A lot of people give guff to Titus because of the laughing, that type of thing. But I think again, I give you permission to shit on Ethan Weber. I don't mind about Ethan Weber. So, Ethan Weber is your typical guy hero. He has a sister. His dad served the cause, or the Guardians, and then his dad either mysteriously died or mysteriously disappeared. No one really knows about him. They don't, again, for some reason they don't mention the mom. I don't know. you have a rival. His name is Hugo Wright, misspelled Right, because I don't know, edgy Shadow the Hedgehog type thing. There's a dirty old man like Master Roshi in the game, so there's that as well. You have your contemporary or peer Karen Era. She's like your mentor, and there's a tiny beast guy, and there's a big beast guy called, I think, Leo, and the tiny one is called Tonio. I don't remember, so I kind of remember a lot and not so much about Universe because again the story is really ridiculous. There's like a Japan planet basically for the Newmans, um, which is kind of funny that instead of a land, there's a planet just of Japan. But it's also like it's very stylistically cool, which unfortunately I'm very biased because I'm Japanese as well. So, um, but anyway, it's cool. It's also weird. Um, what else I was gonna say is notable as well. There's vehicle sections, which the vehicles like perform very poorly. Um, and there's also a guy in it, which is kind of funny, cool. There's a guy that's basically the seller from Resident Evil 4. He's there and he's like, oh man, I got the good stuff. Um, so yeah. I think it's probably people don't give a lot of guff to Ethan Weber because again, Phantasy Star Universe was, much later. It's on the 360 as well. They had an expansion called Ambitions of the Luminous, which was mostly for your online, character. Also, unfortunately, you can't play your or your, online character from the get go. I mean, you can from the get go for online, but um, what's it called? I feel absolutely bad too because if you're still here, Doggy Mango, like how are you doing, and how are you doing, Shrimpy? I know it's like you said, that you said you'll stream today, and I'll be there for that. And if you're right, right. Oh, hi, Kitty Mango as well. Thank you for stopping by. But also, how are you? And if you're still here, Doggy Mango, how are you as well? So yeah, there's literally a guy that sells you stuff. He's a vendor. Other than that, it kind of unfortunately, um, um, gosh, what was I gonna say? It kind of just defaults to Dark Falls again. So yeah, um, um, but yeah, Universes I think is or sorry, what I was gonna say. You can't make your own character till you pass level or stage or chapter 5 in the story with Ethan Weber. So you have to endure a lot of awful anime voice acting, and not like the good awful anime voice acting where it's bad but it's funny. Um, there were a lot of PSP Fantasy Star games. I have no idea about those if they're good or not. I think the one notable thing is one of the games allowed you like Mass Effect style to carry your character over to each game. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So kind of it that's kind of where it ends though because they don't remember like any of the choices and they don't remember like what you did last game. So it's like okay, you're important for some reason, but I don't remember why. So just do good, guy or girl. So again, the last thing that we're gonna come full circle and talk about Phantasy Star Online 2. It debuted in 2012. They had a Western release in 20 or they announced a Western release in 2013. Nothing came about that until this year, 2020, or rather last year. They showed the trailer at the Xbox or Gamescom or E3 or whatever, and it came out 2020. I was really like sad because I couldn't play video games anymore. So yeah, from watching other people play it, like my brother, and um, it's very confusing. There's a lot going on. There's no there's a lot of there is voice acting in the game, and I don't know if it's bad or not. They have like anime ish, like when you like have your character talk, they'll have like speed lines going on behind them, which is kind of funny. But other than that, I don't know what's else going on with the game. Some of the old school like online weapons have you can get them in online too very early, which is where um what's it called? Which was kind of interesting, but uh other than that, I don't know what to say about online 2 because I never played it. There were some what's it called? There were some crazy new expansions with what's it called? I can't even think of it because there's like a battleship that was announced and I don't know what they were doing. So um so sorry, that's all I got to say about Phantasy Star. Um Again, it's I think the most notable thing about it is that it was a competition to, Square, because it was, for the most part a sci-fi RPG, and Square never did have that until, like Star Ocean, and then later with Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy 7, the big Shinra Empire and all that. I don't know what goes on in Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy 10 is also kind of notable because it has more sci-fi elements too as well. So, um, like Final Fantasy 10 has like more sci-fi slash green fable elements, like, don't have too much industry because, then you can't, appreciate the what's it called? Like nature and all that. So, and even kind of going to the future, Final Fantasy 15 also has a lot of sci-fi elements. You have a car, that car can transform into an airship later. Or now that I think about it, there's always an airship for each Final Fantasy. Now that I think about it, and so yeah, because I almost, now that I think about it, Square almost had a stranglehold on the industry because I swear I think they made every other like famous RPG. They made, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Secret of Mana. Oh, dying of curiosity. What do you have questions, Shrimpy? But yeah, I think, Square made Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger, Star Ocean, Legend of Dragoon. Like, they had such a monopoly on the JRPGs, and um or unless I'm wrong, and somebody else made Secret of Mana and then they republished it on the Switch under the Square banner. Um so I guess it's kind of crazy that Phantasy Star was never a name that was like, you know came forward a lot. I was always salty that, like, I swear more people played Monster Hunter instead of online, and they finally admitted that, like, oh, Monster Hunter was influenced by Phantasy Star's hack and slash combat, kind of Dynasty Warriors esque probably. Um, but yeah, like, I'm not to be egocentric, or but I almost feel like you could say Monster Hunter was possibly inspired by online. And then you could argue it's a big argue, but you could say it possibly influenced Dark Souls as well because that's a hack and slash as well. Other than that, uh, what I was gonna say too is I think it's kind of funny. I almost would say that Fire Emblem stole Fire Emblem stole main characters or protagonists from Phantasy Star, and that it's never been confirmed, but I almost kind of like I almost like know it because Marth is very, if you look in again the lower right, Marth is very similar to Rolf right there with the blue hair, and Ike is very similar to a guy on Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, which that again that's another competitor to in the RPG scene. Ogre Battle is such a caveat of like fame as well. But yeah, there's a guy in Ogre Battle that has blue like spiky hair like Ike in Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and it's kind of like a halfway between Fist of the North Star guys and having blue spiky hair as well. Um, but Ike is very similar to that guy, and Lynn, from both Fire Emblem and Smash Brothers, she is very similar to Asha from Monster World 4. So I think it's kind of funny that at the time that three Fire Emblem protagonists look very similar to other characters. So um, I think that's all I can say now that I think about it. Um, I can't think of like any other things to say about Phantasy Star other than I wish they had merch. I wish they had merch like Amiibo, or the if you've seen them, Totaku is another like big, is like figurines like Amiibo, and they have like franchises like uh I'm actually getting kind of hungry. I'm getting close to hungry. I know I've spoken like nonstop, and I'm like close to like having. I should. I don't know if adding hydrate is a blessing or a curse, but I almost want to put hydrate on there because I really want to drink. But in fact, I'll drink right now, and I don't want to mute it. Actually, people will call me out for being a coward, so I'll put hydrate on there. Maybe. Um, but I think what I was gonna say too is I honestly wish Fantasy Star had merchandise because um like Pokemon or Animal Crossing or oh I put the hydrate. Okay, I'll think about adding the hydrate. Um uh but yeah, I gotcha. Maybe shrimpy, but then I would have to have soup or uh I gotcha, Kitty Mango. I have seen the legions and legions of hydrate on both yours and Doggy streams. So the legions and legions of Rocks fans. Um, but what was I gonna say? But it's like it's like with Amiibo, or even again with the Pokemon cards, you could have legions of Fantasy Star stuff. They even have their their own mascot like a chocobo. They have it. It's called like a Rappy, I think, and Rappy is like their yellow like bird creature like a chocobo. So they even have their own mascot. So I'm surprised they don't have more than enough like plushies of it or figures of it, or like um uh that's all I gotta say, and I'm sorry, I'll be back in a second. Sorry, that was my mom, and we were talking. And you might have heard my ringtone, which is the Japanese band Flow. I hope it doesn't flag me there because it is again my ringtone. So, um, it's Flow with her song Colors. I know it's the song for I think Code Geass or La Loach of the Rebellion or whatever, right? Or I can't remember the title of it. I just remember it's like Code Geass or something like that. I don't know if Code Geass is a good show or not. If it is, recommend it to me in the chat. Um, and I might watch it one day if I'm after I buy what's it called, the $100 pack of 6 Studio Ghibli films. Um, but yeah, other than that, I can't think of anything else for Phantasy Star, honestly. Um, Gosh, I was talking about merch. I was going to say, what else? I Does anybody have any questions before we end, or is this it? Because I'm surprised that I actually got like 50 minutes of it. I would honestly thought I would have been done by 30 minutes. So, um, yeah. Anyway, I would like to say thank you everybody for stopping by and hosting the stream. It means a lot to me. And okay, well, Shrimpy, do you have any questions or? Gotcha, gotcha, I gotcha. Thank you, Kitty Mango. Because I'm trying to, at the very least, like stream later because I think that it's for my it's one of my best friends over in in Iowa, and he's I no, 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 never mind. He's in Idaho because I specifically remember, even though he didn't want to go to Idaho. Okay, no, you're right. I think Sunday will definitely be the Mario podcast, Shrimpy. So, um, uh, also sorry, Kitty Mango. The night I think the mic bot is really strict, so I know I need to fix it, and I'll send the code to Shrimpy. Um, anyway, um, but yeah, I try to plan it later in the day now because I think from Idaho he's an hour ahead. But also, or an hour, yeah, an hour. Add an hour or whatever. Um, but also, I think I remember he's instead of Iowa, I think he's in Idaho because I was going like, oh yeah, you can visit Napoleon Dynamite. He's in Preston, Idaho, or whatever. So he can meet Napoleon, Pedro, Deb, creepy Uncle Rico. Everybody. Rex Kwon Do. Um, Sorry, I almost know Napoleon Dynamite by hand, so that's my only like. It's it's one of my favorites. I know it's like, for most intents and purposes, it can be seen as juvenile, but I really like Napoleon Dynamite because it's a semi reverse Cinderella story. Um, so yeah. Um, Other than that, yeah, definitely. So wait, Shrimpy and Kitty, do you want it to be the Mario movie or the Mario animation? Or because with the Mario show, I know it's swing your arms side to side, come on, let's do the Mario. I know that. But other than that, I don't know anything else about the show. That's my biggest like I don't know if it should be the movie or the show. It can be both, honestly, but I would like to know beforehand, so I can plan out a little bit. Um, I gotcha. So yeah, Shrimpy was talking about also possibly having a looking at Mario Evolution. So um, the so I might do or might. Okay, okay. Well, maybe we'll have an ad break in the middle. We'll concentrate on maybe we'll do Mario Evolution of games as well. Maybe make it all Mario Thon. So um maybe for the first like 10 to 15 minutes it'll be like about the Mario games, and then and then next minutes will be the show, and then the last will be the Mario movie. So the Mario movie is probably the oddest thing, and I know it's kind of cool that Illumination, the guys that do Secret Life of Pets, Sing, and Despicable Me, are handling it. So hopefully it should be a good film. Other than that, thank you everybody for stopping by. Thank you Shrimpy. Thank you Doggy Mango. Thank you Kitty Mango. Thank you Shin. I don't know if that was an auto host or if he actually stopped by. Um, Other than that, thank you everyone. This is me signing off. So no Mario. I don't want to have a Mario thong song by Cisco or whatever. That'd be disturbing. So, but anyway, yeah, thank you for everybody stopping by, and I'm signing off.